The whole thing started 3 months ago when Victoria announced her engagement to Derek at our monthly family dinner. Mom immediately started gushing about wedding plans while Dad pulled out his checkbook, ready to fund what he called the social event of the decade. "We're thinking the Rosewood Vineyard Estate," Victoria said, scrolling through photos on her phone. "It's only $85,000 for the venue, plus catering, flowers, photography." She paused dramatically. "Around $200,000 total. Whatever my princess wants," Dad beamed, already calculating numbers in his head. I was sitting quietly at the end of the table, picking at my salad when Victoria's eyes landed on me. "Oh, and Maya, I know money's tight for you right now, but I really want you as my maid of honor. We can find you something affordable to wear." "That's very thoughtful," I replied softly. "Maybe something from Target?" she continued with a laugh. "I mean, we can't have you looking out of place next to my Stanford sorority sisters." Mom nodded sympathetically. "Victoria's right, honey. This is going to be photographed for the society pages. We want you to feel comfortable but also appropriate." I'd grown used to these conversations over the years. Ever since dropping out of law school to pursue what my family called that computer thing, I'd become the designated family disappointment. While Victoria climbed the corporate ladder at Dad's investment firm, I spent my days in coffee shops with my laptop, working on what they assumed were freelance projects that barely paid the bills. What they didn't know was that computer thing had turned into Dataflow Solutions, a cloud infrastructure company I'd built from nothing. 3 years ago, a major tech corporation had acquired us for $340 million. My 60% stake had made me exceptionally comfortable, though I'd kept living in my modest one-bedroom apartment and driving my reliable Honda Civic. The family never asked about my work beyond polite inquiries about whether I was still doing that coding stuff. They assumed my simple lifestyle meant I was struggling financially. It was easier to let them think that than explain how I'd accidentally built a tech empire while they weren't paying attention. "Have you put a deposit down on Rosewood?" I asked Victoria. "Not yet," she sighed. "They're requiring $50,000 upfront, and with Derek's student loans we need Dad's check to clear first. But the wedding coordinator assured me we're first on the list." I made a mental note and changed the subject. The next day I drove out to Rosewood Vineyard Estate. Rolling hills covered in grapevines stretched as far as I could see, with a stunning Mediterranean-style villa overlooking the valley. The owner, Mrs. Catherine Rosewood, met me personally. "It's a magnificent property," she said as we toured the grounds. "My late husband and I built this as our dream home 40 years ago. But I'm 78 now and it's time to let someone else create memories here." "What made you decide to sell?" "The event business keeps me busy, but the property taxes and maintenance are overwhelming. My children live on the East Coast and have no interest in wine country life." We spent 2 hours walking the Vineyard Rose, talking about her husband's passion for winemaking and her love of hosting celebrations. By the time we returned to the villa, I'd made my decision. "Mrs. Rosewood, I'd like to make an offer." "For an event booking?" "For the entire estate." Her eyebrows rose. "The entire? But you look so young. Are you sure you understand what you're considering?" I pulled out my phone and showed her my bank statement. "I'm quite sure." 3 weeks later the papers were signed. I was now the owner of 150 acres of prime Napa Valley real estate, including the vineyard, villa, guest cottages and event facilities. Mrs. Rosewood had accepted my offer of $12.8 million, grateful to know the property would be loved and maintained. I kept the existing staff and event bookings, including Victoria's wedding, which was still 6 weeks away. The wedding coordinator, Sarah, had no idea ownership had changed. I'd specifically requested that all existing contracts be honored under the previous management structure. That Friday our family gathered for our usual dinner. Victoria was practically glowing as she showed off wedding favors and talked about final preparations. "The venue coordinator called today," she announced. "Everything's confirmed for next month. Rosewood is going to be absolutely perfect." "I'm so proud of how you've planned this whole thing," Mom said. "A real fairy tale wedding." Victoria beamed, then turned to me. "Maya, I know we haven't talked about your bridesmaid dress yet. I was thinking maybe we could find something simple online. I don't want you to overspend." "I appreciate you thinking of my budget," I said. "Actually," Victoria continued, getting more animated, Derek's cousin is about your size and she has this beautiful navy dress from her sister's wedding. It's not exactly what I envisioned for my bridal party, but it would save you money. That's very generous. I just want everyone to be comfortable, Victoria said, though her tone suggested she was more concerned about the photos than my comfort. This wedding is going to be featured in several magazines, and I want everything to look cohesive. Dad cleared his throat. Speaking of the wedding, I got the final bill from the caterer today. With all the additions Victoria requested, we're looking at $240,000 total. Daddy, I know it's a lot, Victoria said quickly, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Derek and I will pay you back. Nonsense, Dad waved his hand. My little girl deserves the best. Though I have to say, Maya, it might be good for you to see how a real celebration is done. Maybe it'll motivate you to get serious about your career. Maybe it will, I agreed quietly. The conversation continued with details about flowers, musicians, and the famous photographer Victoria had hired. Throughout dinner, she kept making small comments about keeping things classy and ensuring everyone looked appropriate for the cameras. As we were finishing dessert, Victoria's phone rang. It's the wedding coordinator, she said apologetically, stepping away to take the call. I could hear her voice from the next room getting increasingly agitated. What do you mean there's been a change? The wedding is in 6 weeks. She returned to the dining room looking confused and slightly panicked. That was Sarah from Rosewood. She said there's been a change in ownership, and the new owner wants to meet with me to discuss the wedding arrangements. Change in ownership? Dad frowned. When did this happen? Apparently 3 weeks ago, Victoria said, checking her phone again. Sarah assured me that all existing contracts would be honored, but the new owner wants to personally review all upcoming events. Mom looked worried. What if they want to change the pricing? Or cancel bookings? They can't do that, Victoria said, though she sounded uncertain. We have a contract. Who bought it? Dad asked. Sarah didn't say. Just that they'd be in touch soon to schedule a meeting. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this news. Victoria's perfect wedding suddenly felt less certain. I'm sure it'll be fine, I said gently. Maybe the new owner just wants to maintain the same high standards. Easy for you to say, Victoria snapped, her stress showing. You don't have anything invested in this. If they cancel, I don't have time to find another venue of this caliber. Victoria, Mom scolded, Maya's just trying to help. Help how? She can barely help herself. At least when my wedding gets featured in Town and Country, some of us will be representing the family properly. I nodded thoughtfully. You're right. I should probably leave the wedding planning to people who understand these things. The next morning my phone rang early. It was Victoria calling before 7 a.m. Maya, I'm sorry about last night, she began. I'm just stressed about this venue situation. I understand. Wedding planning must be overwhelming. The thing is, I was wondering if you could do me a favor. I know money's tight for you, but could you maybe contribute something to the wedding? Even a small amount would help, and it would mean a lot to show family support. I paused, considering my words carefully. What kind of contribution were you thinking? Well, Derek and I were talking, and with this venue uncertainty we might need a backup plan. If we have to book somewhere else last minute, it could cost an extra $50,000 or more. I know you probably don't have that much, but even $5,000 would show that you're really committed to being part of this celebration. You want me to contribute $5,000 to your wedding? I know it sounds like a lot for someone in your situation, but Maya, this is my wedding. It's the most important day of my life. And honestly, it might be good for you to invest in something bigger than just yourself for once. I was quiet for a long moment. Victoria, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you actually want me at your wedding? Of course I do. You're my sister. Why would you ask that? Because every conversation we've had about it involves you telling me how I need to look different, spend money I supposedly don't have, or change something about myself to fit your vision. Victoria sighed. I'm not trying to change you, Maya. I'm trying to help you rise to the occasion. This wedding is going to be attended by some very important people. Dad's business partners, Derek's family who own half the tech companies in Silicon Valley, my sorority sisters who are all successful professionals. And you're embarrassed of me. I'm not embarrassed. I want you to shine, Maya. This could be networking opportunity for you. If you could just put in a little effort, maybe wear something nice, contribute financially to show you're invested, it would help you too. I understood then. This wasn't about including me in her celebration. This was about managing how I might reflect on her perfect day. Victoria, I need to tell you something. What? I can't contribute $5,000 to your wedding. She was quiet for a moment. I understand. I mean, I'm disappointed, but I get that you're in a tough spot financially. I'm not in a tough spot financially. What do you mean? I mean, I can't contribute $5,000 because I don't think it would be appropriate, given that I own the venue. Silence. Maya, what are you talking about? I bought Rosewood Vineyard Estate 3 weeks ago. I'm the new owner, Sarah mentioned. The silence stretched so long I thought she might have hung up. You, what? I purchased the property for $12.8 million. Your wedding is still scheduled as planned, don't worry. This isn't funny, Maya. I'm not trying to be funny. You can't afford a bridesmaid dress, but you bought a $12 million vineyard? Apparently so. Another long pause. This is impossible. Where would you get $12 million? I sold my company 3 years ago for $340 million. I've been living quietly and investing the money. When you mentioned Rosewood, I went to look at it and fell in love with the property. Your company? What company? You code websites for small businesses. Actually, I built a cloud infrastructure platform that was acquired by Microdata Corporation. You might have read about it. The acquisition made tech news for several weeks. Victoria was quiet for so long I started to wonder if she'd fainted. Victoria? Are you okay? I need to call you back. She hung up. 20 minutes later my phone exploded with calls and texts. First Victoria, then Mom, then Dad. I let them all go to voicemail and continued my morning routine. Victoria's voicemail was a rambling mix of apologies and questions. Maya, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell us? How long have you been wealthy? I feel terrible about the bridesmaid dress comments. Mom's message was pure confusion. Honey, Victoria called crying about you owning the wedding venue? I don't understand what's happening. Please call me back. Dad's voicemail was different. Maya, Victoria says you bought some vineyard? I'd like to understand what's going on here. This seems like a conversation we should have had as a family. I made coffee and sat on my small apartment balcony, watching the morning traffic below. My phone continued buzzing with messages, but I wasn't ready to deal with the chaos yet. Finally, around noon I called Victoria back. Maya. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for hours. I saw. What can I do for you? I don't even know where to start. Is it true? Do you really own Rosewood? I do. And you're really worth. You really have millions of dollars. I do. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive a Honda. You never go on vacations or wear expensive clothes or... I like my apartment. My car is reliable. And I don't need expensive clothes to be happy. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Maya, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. For what? For treating you like you were less successful than me. For assuming you were struggling. For making those comments about your dress and asking you for money. Victoria, you didn't know. But that's just it, I never bothered to know. I never asked about your work beyond surface questions. I just assumed because you weren't flashy about money, you didn't have any. I appreciated her honesty. It's okay. It's not okay. I've been condescending to you for years. And the worst part is you never corrected me. You just let me make an ass of myself. I didn't want to make a big deal about the money. Why not? Maya, you're incredibly successful. You should be proud of what you've accomplished. I am proud of my work. But I've seen how money changes family dynamics. I wanted our relationship to be about more than my bank account. Victoria was crying now. I'm so sorry. You're my little sister and I should have been supporting you, not judging you. You weren't judging me. You were trying to help in your own way. By offering you hand-me-down dresses and lecturing you about career motivation? I couldn't help but laugh. The career motivation talks were pretty funny, given the circumstances. Oh God, all those dinners where Dad and I gave you advice about getting serious about work. While I was running a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio, yes. Maya, can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive, Victoria. You're my sister and I love you. Even after I was such a snob about the wedding? Especially after that. Though I do think we need to have a conversation about your actual expectations for the ceremony. What do you mean? Well, as the venue owner, I want to make sure your wedding is exactly what you dreamed of. But as your sister, I want to make sure you actually want me there as family, not as someone you're trying to manage. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I got so caught up in having the perfect wedding that I forgot what weddings are actually about. Maya, I want you there as my maid of honor because you're the person who's always been there for me, even when I didn't deserve it. Even if I wear a dress from Target? She laughed through her tears. Wear whatever makes you happy. Though, can I ask you something? Sure. Are you going to be okay financially if you bought a $12 million vineyard? I know you said you have money, but that's still a huge purchase. Victoria, my net worth after the vineyard purchase is still over $300 million. Silence again. 300 million? Give or take. Maya, you're rich. I'm comfortable. You're richer than Dad. Considerably. She started laughing and it quickly became hysterical laughter mixed with crying. I offered you a used bridesmaid dress. I asked you for $5,000. I told you to look at this wedding as a networking opportunity. To be fair, it might still be good networking. Derek's family does sound interesting. Maya, Derek's family is going to want to invest with you, not network with you. I hadn't thought about that. That could get complicated. This whole thing is complicated. How do I even begin to apologize to everyone? Mom and Dad are going to die when they find out. You don't need to apologize for not knowing something I didn't tell you. But I need to apologize for how I treated you. Maya, you've been nothing but supportive of this wedding and I've been awful. You haven't been awful. You've been stressed about planning a big event. I asked my multimillionaire sister to contribute $5,000 to help pay for a wedding at a venue she owns. When you put it like that, it does sound fairly ridiculous. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Maya, can I ask why you bought Rosewood? Was it because of my wedding? I considered the question carefully. Partially. When you described it, I was curious to see it. But mostly I bought it because I fell in love with the property. Mrs. Rosewood, the previous owner, needed to sell, and I could give her the security of knowing it would be well cared for. Are you going to keep running it as an event venue? For now. I like the idea of hosting celebrations, though I might make some changes to focus on family events rather than just high-end society parties. That sounds perfect for you. Victoria, there's something else we should discuss. What? Your wedding budget. Oh no, Maya, I can't let you pay for my wedding. That wouldn't be right. I'm not offering to pay for it. I'm offering to host it. What's the difference? The difference is that you're my sister and I want to give you the wedding of your dreams as my gift to you. Not because you need financial help, but because I love you and want to celebrate your marriage. Victoria started crying again. Maya, that's too much. It's not too much if it makes you happy. But the venue fee alone is $85,000. Victoria, $85,000 is what I spend on coffee in a year. That can't be true. Okay, that's an exaggeration. But the point stands. This wedding gift won't impact my finances, and it would mean everything to me to host your celebration. Are you sure? I'm sure. But I have one condition. Anything. I want you to wear whatever dress makes you feel beautiful, eat whatever food makes you happy, and celebrate with people who love you for who you are. No more worry about impressing magazine photographers or looking perfect for social media. That sounds amazing, actually. Good. And Victoria. Yeah. I'd be honored to be your maid of honor, but only if you actually want me standing beside you as your sister, not as a prop in your photos. Maya, I want nothing more than to have my sister beside me on the most important day of my life. Then let's plan a wedding. Over the next several weeks, everything changed. Victoria called off the magazine photographers and reduced the guest list by half, focusing on family and close friends rather than business contacts and social acquaintances. We worked together to design a celebration that reflected her and Derek's personalities rather than what looked impressive on paper. I kept my ownership of the vineyard quiet from extended family and friends, letting Victoria share the news as she felt comfortable. Most people assumed I was simply helping with planning, which was fine with me. The morning of the wedding, Victoria found me in the bridal suite at 6 a.m., despite her wedding not starting until 4 p.m. Maya, are you awake? I am now, I said, opening the door to find her in pajamas with tears in her eyes. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything. Wedding day nerves? No. Well, yes, but also, Maya, I've been a terrible sister. I pulled her into the suite and made her sit down. Victoria, we've talked about this. You haven't been terrible. Yes, I have. Not just about the money stuff, but before that too. I never asked about your work because I assumed it wasn't important. I never included you in my social circle because I thought you wouldn't fit in. I treated you like the little sister who needed guidance instead of recognizing that you were building something incredible. Victoria. Let me finish. You've given me the most beautiful gift imaginable, not just paying for this wedding, but making it possible for me to have the celebration I actually wanted instead of the one I thought I was supposed to want. And more than that, you've been patient with me while I figured out how to be a better sister. I sat down beside her. Victoria, do you know what the best part of this whole experience has been for me? What? Getting to know who you really are when you're not trying to impress anyone. The sister who cried when we tasted the wine Mrs. Rosewood made from her husband's favorite grapes. The one who insisted on handwriting thank you notes to every vendor. The one who changed her flowers from exotic orchids to wildflowers because they reminded her of our childhood backyard. You noticed all that? Of course I noticed. You're my sister and I love watching you become yourself. Victoria hugged me tightly. Thank you for seeing who I could be and loving me while I figured it out. That's what sisters do. The wedding was perfect in ways that had nothing to do with money. Victoria glowed with genuine happiness. Derek looked at her like she was his whole world. And our parents cried during the ceremony for all the right reasons. During the reception, Dad pulled me aside as we watched Victoria and Derek dance. Maya, I owe you an apology. For what, Dad? For not taking your work seriously. For assuming that because you weren't climbing a traditional corporate ladder, you weren't succeeding. Dad, you couldn't have known. But I should have asked. I should have been curious about what you were building instead of worrying about what you weren't achieving. I smiled. Well, now you know. Now I know that my daughter is brilliant and successful and generous, and I'm proud of who you've become. Thank you, Dad. As the evening wound down, I found myself on the vineyard terrace, looking out over the valley. Victoria appeared beside me, still in her wedding dress. Hiding from your own party? I asked, taking a moment to appreciate it all. Maya, this was the most perfect day of my life. I'm glad. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you happy? I mean really happy? With your life, your choices, everything. I thought about it. I am. I love my work, I love this property, and I love our family, even when you're being impossible. Victoria laughed. Even when I'm being impossible? Especially then. That's when you need love most. She leaned against the railing beside me. Maya, I want you to know that whether you had millions of dollars or were actually struggling financially, I should have treated you better. Money doesn't determine someone's worth. No, it doesn't. But it does make for a really great wedding venue. I laughed. It doesn't hurt. As we stood there watching the stars come out over the vineyard, I realized that Victoria was right. This had been a perfect day. Not because everything was expensive or impressive, but because it was real. Because my sister had chosen love over image, family over status, and authenticity over perfection. And because sometimes, the best gift you can give someone isn't money or property or business success. Sometimes it's the patience to let them figure out who they really are, and the love to accept them while they're figuring it out. Victoria's marriage would be built on that kind of foundation, real love between two people who chose each other not for what they could project to the world, but for who they were when no one else was watching. As for me, I had my vineyard, my family, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the most successful ventures aren't the ones that make headlines. Sometimes they're the ones that make a sister's wedding day perfect, or give an elderly woman peace of mind, or prove that success doesn't have to be loud to be real. The next morning I found a handwritten note from Victoria on my door. Maya, thank you for the most beautiful wedding, the most beautiful venue, and most importantly for being the most beautiful sister. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of your patience and generosity. I love you more than words can say. V. I smiled, folded the note carefully, and tucked it into my desk drawer next to the property deed for Rosewood Vineyard Estate. Some investments pay dividends in dollars. Others pay dividends in relationships that become stronger, deeper and more genuine than anything money could buy. I was grateful to have both,